There is someone in your life right now who thinks about you every single day. You pass them, you talk to them, you might even laugh with them, and you have absolutely no idea how they feel about you. Think about someone you've had feelings for but never told. Maybe it was a close friend, maybe someone you worked with, maybe someone from years ago whose face you still remember clearly. You never said anything, not because the feelings weren't real, but because saying them out loud felt like stepping off a ledge with no idea what was below. That's the experience millions of people carry every single day. Feelings that are completely real, completely present, completely alive inside them, and completely invisible to the person they're directed toward. Hidden feelings aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign of how much someone values what they already have with you, the friendship, the connection, the easy comfort of your presence in their life. Saying something risks all of that, so they stay quiet and they carry it. What's remarkable is how long people can carry unexpressed feelings without them fading. You'd think time would dissolve them. Sometimes it does the opposite. The feelings deepen because they never got released. They just settle further in. This person in your life, the one who hasn't said anything, isn't hiding their feelings because they don't trust you. They're hiding them because they care too much about losing you to risk the conversation. That's not dishonesty. That's a very human kind of love operating under a very human kind of fear. And here's the part that tends to surprise people. These hidden feelings often come with the most genuine form of care, because this person isn't loving you for what they might get back. They're loving you with no guarantee of anything, no confirmation, no reward, just quiet, consistent feeling that shows up in how they treat you every single day. That kind of love, unexpressed but deeply present, is more common in your life than you probably realize right now. Letters have always carried meaning beyond just being the first sound of a name. Across cultures, across history, across different systems of understanding human personality, certain letters have been associated with certain energies, certain traits, certain ways of moving through the world. The letter L is one of those letters that consistently shows up connected to warmth, loyalty, and depth of feeling. It's not random. People who study name energy, numerology, and personality patterns have noticed this connection repeatedly. There's something about the names that carry this letter: Lauren, Lucas, Layla, Leo, Lisa, Liam, that tends to come with a particular kind of emotional depth. People with L names tend to love with their whole selves, not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, in a steady, consistent, deeply committed way. They're not the type to love someone casually and move on without a second thought. When they attach to a person, that attachment runs deep and it lasts. They're also private about it. This is the part that catches people off guard. Someone with an L name might have genuine, deep feelings for you, and you'd never know from the surface. They carry it quietly. They express it through actions rather than declarations, through showing up, through remembering, through being there in the small moments that most people overlook. This combination, deep feeling paired with quiet expression, is exactly why someone like this can love you for a long time without you ever fully registering it. They're not cold. They're not distant. They're just not the type to put their heart on a billboard and wait for a response. When you start to look at the L names in your life through this lens, things start to make sense. Certain behaviors that seemed like just friendship start to look like something more. Certain patterns of attention and care start to reveal a feeling that was always there, just waiting to be noticed. There's a version of love that most people never talk about because it doesn't look the way love is supposed to look in movies or songs. It doesn't arrive with declarations. It doesn't demand to be seen. It just shows up quietly, consistently, without asking for anything in return. That's quiet love. And it's the deepest kind there is. The person who loves you loudly is easy to spot. They tell you, they show you in big ways, they make sure you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. But loud love can also be about the person expressing it, about their need to be acknowledged, to be reciprocated, to feel secure in what they're giving. Quiet love doesn't need any of that. It just exists. It shows up in the background of your life without announcing itself, in the person who checks on you when you go quiet for a few days, in the one who remembers something small you mentioned weeks ago and brings it up because they were thinking about you, in the friend who defends you in rooms you'll never even know about. This kind of love is patient in a way that loud love rarely is. It doesn't give up when it doesn't get immediate recognition. It doesn't pull back because it isn't being rewarded. It just continues, steady and real, because the feeling behind it is genuine enough to sustain itself without external validation. Most people have someone like this in their life and don't fully see it. They're too busy looking for the loud version, the grand gesture, the obvious sign, and while they're looking outward for something dramatic, the quietest and most genuine form of care is happening right beside them. Quiet love doesn't shout. It stays. And in a world where most things are temporary, someone who stays consistently, without fanfare, without demands, is telling you everything you need to know. There's something deeply human about wanting what feels just out of reach while taking for granted what's already steady and present. It's not a character flaw. It's just how the human mind tends to work. We're drawn to novelty, to challenge, to the thing that hasn't fully arrived yet. And in doing that, we often walk right past what's already there. The person who has genuine feelings for you is almost never a stranger. They're already in your life. They've already earned a place in your daily existence. They're in your contact list. They show up in your week without you having to think about it. And because of that familiarity, you stop seeing them clearly. Familiarity is a strange thing. It creates comfort, which is beautiful, but it also creates a kind of blindness. When someone is always there, their presence stops registering as something remarkable. You stop noticing how consistently they show up. You stop questioning why they always seem to remember the details. You just accept it as part of your life without asking where it comes from. But it comes from somewhere real. It comes from feeling, from genuine care that has been quietly present long before you thought to look for it. Think about the people closest to you right now, the ones who have been consistent, the ones who show up without being asked, the ones who remember things, small things, that you barely remembered yourself. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever stopped to wonder why they do that? Have you ever looked past the comfort of their presence and asked what's actually driving it? Most people haven't, not because they're careless, but because proximity makes things invisible. We see through the people closest to us instead of actually looking at them. The love you've been searching for might not be somewhere out there waiting to be found. It might be standing right next to you, patient, quiet, and real. Nobody leads with "I love you" before the feeling has had time to build. There's always a language that comes before those words, a whole silent conversation happening through behavior, through attention, through the small choices a person makes when they're around you. And that language, if you know how to read it, tells you everything. The signs are never random. They follow a pattern. And once you understand the pattern, you start seeing it everywhere you weren't looking before. It starts with attention, not the obvious kind, not staring or hovering, the subtle kind. The person who notices when your energy shifts, who picks up on the fact that you seem quieter than usual today, who catches the small things you do that nobody else registers because nobody else is paying that level of attention to you. Then comes memory. This one is significant. People remember what matters to them. If someone consistently recalls the small details of your conversations, things you mentioned once in passing, things you didn't think were worth remembering, that's not coincidence. That's someone who carries you with them long after the conversation ends. Then there's the showing up, not always in big moments, mostly in ordinary ones. They're there when things are low-key and unexciting. They don't just appear for the good times. They're present in the quiet, unremarkable moments that most people don't bother showing up for. There's also the way they respond when you're going through something hard. They don't offer generic comfort. They say the right thing because they actually know you well enough to know what the right thing is. That level of knowing doesn't happen by accident. It happens because someone has been paying close attention for a long time. These signs were always there. They didn't start today. Looking back, You'll realize they've been there for longer than you thought. Quiet, consistent, and completely real. Rejection is one of the most avoided human experiences there is, not just emotionally, physically. The body responds to social rejection the same way it responds to physical pain. The same neural pathways, the same instinct to pull back and protect. This is not an exaggeration. It's been studied and documented. Rejection genuinely hurts in a way that goes beyond feelings. So when you understand that, when you really sit with what rejection feels like, it starts to make complete sense why someone would choose to stay quiet about something as significant as love. The math feels impossible to them. Say something and risk losing everything. Stay quiet and at least keep what already exists. The friendship, the connection, the comfortable presence of you in their life. That feels safer than stepping into the unknown of a confession with no guarantee of how it lands. This isn't cowardice. It's self-preservation, and it comes from a place of genuinely valuing what they already have with you. If they didn't care about losing you, they'd say something without hesitation. The silence itself is evidence of how much you mean to them. There's also the fear of changing the dynamic. Right now, things feel natural between you, easy, real. The moment feelings are named out loud, everything shifts, even if the other person responds with kindness. Something about the relationship changes, and the person carrying these feelings knows that, so they protect the version of connection they already have. What this means for you is important. When someone in your life has been consistently present, consistently caring, consistently attentive, and has never pushed for more or made you feel pressured, that restraint is not indifference. That restraint is someone loving you carefully, loving you in a way that prioritizes your comfort over their own need to be known. That kind of consideration is rare, and it deserves to be recognized for what it actually is. There's something that happens inside a person when they find out someone has deep feelings for them. Something shifts, not just in how they see that person, but in how they see themselves. It's subtle, but it's real, and it tends to stay with you long after the moment passes. Most people walk through life with a quiet uncertainty about their own worth, not always consciously, not in a way they'd necessarily admit out loud, but it's there. The small voice that wonders whether they're really seen, whether they're actually valued, whether the people around them would choose them if they had to make that choice deliberately. Finding out that someone looked at everything you are and quietly, consistently chose you answers something that question never could on its own. It doesn't matter how confident a person appears on the outside. That kind of revelation touches something deep. It reminds you that you are worth loving, not the polished version of you, not the version that has everything together, the real version, the everyday version, the one that shows up tired and uncertain and imperfect and still gets chosen. That reminder changes how you carry yourself. It changes how you enter rooms. It changes how you speak about yourself when nobody is listening. Because something inside you has been confirmed that needed confirming, it also changes how you look at the people around you. You start paying more attention. You start wondering who else has been quietly showing up in ways you haven't fully registered. You become more present, more aware, more grateful for the connections you might have been moving through too quickly to appreciate. This is why this kind of revelation matters beyond the romance of it. It's not just about finding out someone loves you. It's about what that knowledge does to the way you move through the world from that moment forward. We've walked through a lot today. Hidden feelings, quiet love, the letter that carries a particular kind of warmth and loyalty. The person who has been right there in your life, consistent, attentive, present, without ever making you feel pressured to notice. And if you've been paying attention, something has probably already shifted in you. A name came to mind, a face, a person whose behavior started making more sense as you listened, someone whose small, consistent acts of care suddenly look less like personality and more like feeling. That's not coincidence. That's awareness opening up. The truth is, most of us are so busy moving forward that we forget to look sideways. We forget to look at the people already walking beside us, the ones who showed up before we even knew we needed them, the ones who stayed when staying wasn't required. Love doesn't always come with a grand entrance. Sometimes it's been quietly sitting across from you at an ordinary Tuesday. Sometimes it's been in your phone under a name you scroll past without thinking. Sometimes it's been in the person whose first instinct when something good happens to them is to tell you. The letter L was never just a letter, it was a direction, a nudge to look at a specific kind of person in your life with fresh eyes and honest attention. And now that you've looked, really looked, what you do with that awareness is entirely up to you. But at least now you're seeing clearly. At least now you know that somewhere in your life, in the quiet space between ordinary moments, someone has already made their choice. They chose you, quietly, consistently, completely. The only question left is whether you're ready to truly see them back.